we recording?
Well, how do you feel, Chuck?
I went from happy to angry. Skip said, now I feel like kicking his ass. Then we'll see who's laughing, huh?
Speaking of 13-year-old boys, that sounds wrong.
Wrap it up. Shut it down.
The topic is what it means to be a man.
Welcome to the save file.
That's the time you become a man. That was the connection. Nothing more. Don't read into it anymore than that.
Oh, dead. Also, I said this in the pre-show, post-show. I don't know what we'll call that where I edit that around. But I'm a little sick, so if I sound weird, then check us out next episode if you hate my voice. I don't know how long this episode will be, but as long as my voice will take us, we'll go.
Yeah, or if we just want to stop sooner, that's okay too.
Yeah, whatever we want to do. Did you have any, like, I obviously wrote down some stuff, some things we want to talk about. I know this is kind of a crazy topic in the sense of, like, it's simplistic, but it's also divisive in a lot of ways. But also, I asked a few people, we can get into this later. I asked a couple people what they thought, and I got literally every response is different. And I think that's part of the problem. It's cool, but it's kind of part of the problem. That everyone should be able to have their own definition of things. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying everyone should have the same black and white definition, but it was just interesting the different approaches that these different people had that are in, like, my circles.
Yeah.
So.
Well, you did your homework. I didn't. I'm really sorry. I wanted to, and then today was a little crazy at work, so I didn't get around to doing much thinking about it. But I do think...
You need to talk more. I need to talk less during this anyways.
No, I did an analysis on our last episode, actually, and I talked more than you did, which is not usually the case for all those listeners out there.
That's not the case for me and anybody that I know. Me and Sarah were talking about this, about how I was thinking about you. I was thinking about Carlos. I was thinking about even, like, Big Lou. I was thinking about all these different people that we know, and I was like, pretty much everyone is much more of a listener than me. And then, like, Zach was always a huge listener. And, like, he had the opposite ADHD as me. He had, like, the ADD version. So it was like we couldn't be further opposites. It's quite funny.
I don't know. This isn't a slam on Zach. It's just the reality. And I just don't know that he's actually listening as much as he is just existing.
His ears are getting it. I just don't know if they're always holding on to it.
He's in the moment. But, yeah, I don't know if he's always listening, per se.
It does let him be in the moment in a certain way. I think it keeps him a little more pure of heart than other people.
I agree.
He doesn't hear all the bad stuff.
No slam. Like, honestly.
100%.
It's a huge asset and a great character trait. So, and that's why we love Zach, for that reason.
Well, I thought, I don't know if you had a thought process of where you wanted to jump, but I thought we could both go with, generally speaking, how we would define, like, what a man is in our own perspective. Yep. It can be like a one-liner. It could be a paragraph. Just if you had thoughts on that. I wrote something down, but if you want to go first.
Yeah, I can jump into, I guess, like that kind of general concept, what it means to be a man, maybe to us specifically. It honestly probably goes back to my grandpa. I don't know if you'll have the same kind of thought train, but, like, looking at other men who you aspire to be on some level, like taking guidance from them, I think is probably a big part of how we kind of, at least personally, conceptualize being a man. So for me, it's a lot of my grandpa, who was probably like a lot of our grandpas, I guess, that grew up, that are people of our age set, where he came from the greatest generation, as they're called.
Oh, yeah.
And he didn't fight in World War II, but he was in the Navy during Korea. He didn't see any combat or anything, but came up into the when the military was everybody served in the military that was a man, and nowadays, like, almost nobody does. But back then it was, like, literally everybody.
Yeah.
But he just, as long as I knew him, which wasn't his whole life, but he was just always a little bit more, he could be pretty gruff and straightforward, didn't beat around the bush, pretty stoic about a lot of things.
Would you say he was blunt or crass? Was he a little bit
Like
more
blunt.
mean, more blunt,
No.
not super mean? Okay.
Yeah, I wouldn't say he was mean. And he was always pretty choosy on what he got after. Like if he didn't. It wasn't just this, constant tirade. It was just like if it was something really fundamentally important and he wanted you to know it, you'd know it. Right? Like he'd get after you good, but you could kind of see the lesson in it later, and even in that moment, just like okay, then that's important. I better remember that, kind of a thing. So. Yeah, I've just always looked at him as kind of that shining example of just, and beyond that, of just kind of those straightforward characteristics. He always took super great care of my grandma, who went through cancer twice. I wasn't alive the first time she went through it, but the second time I was, which is what ultimately took her life. Pretty young, relative. I think she was 60.
I also have a grandmother on my mom's side. Her mom went through cancer 2 or 3 times.
Okay.
And I know that's so crazy.
Yeah.
You can go through it once, let alone multiple times.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
That's the rough thing about cancer, man, is like go through all that work of chemo and just the brutal toll it takes on your body, and somehow that cancer cell just stays alive and waits, 10, 5, 15 years, and then it comes back, and it's brutal. But he was with her every step of the way, even when obviously they had a lot of life in between her cancer treatments when I was alive, and even then he was just always aware of her and her needs. And I think it was just really interesting to see the contrast where he was always very sweet and nice to her and taking care of her. He'd say little things, little jabs and stuff, but it was almost always very good. But then in like the next breath, he'd be like, hey, get your ass out of the kitchen or I'm going to shove my foot up it. And it's like, whoa, hey, okay. Like just how fast it kind of like could switch between those two things. But I think that made me like idolize him more. It's like, oh, I like that. That's pretty awesome.
You can also see like that he tunnels a lot of the respect to her.
Yes.
So
yeah.
that was
That's a good way
important
to
to
put
him.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think it's a lot of that. And then obviously he loved us too, even though he didn't want to, he just would threaten it, to kick our butts.
Put his foot up there. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's just come around the corner. He's like,
yeah, exactly. It was probably more fun for him than anything. So, but he loved us and, obviously wanted the best for us. He was there at all the most important moments in our lives as grandkids as much as he could be. And his kids loved him. And he just felt like kind of the epitome of responsibility. Like he made choices and he lived with the consequences, and he fulfilled his responsibilities as a man. He took care of his family. He was there for him. He didn't do anything funny, as far as I'm aware. He could have, but as far as I could see, he just lived a straight life and did his best to kind of fulfill those fundamental roles as a man of provide, protect, and pass on wisdom from one generation to another. So I don't know. To me, that's kind of how I've always looked at, like, if I use like a test or something in my life of like a litmus test of like, am I fulfilling my responsibility as a man? I use my grandpa for sure as kind of
sort of a WWJD moment almost. You know what I mean? But I don't know his name. What was his first name? You remember his first name?
His first name was Gary, so it would be WWGD.
WWGD.
Sounds like something else.
That's phenomenal, though. Gary's like my throwaway word where I'm make like a joke name where it's like Gary. Like he's like, it's like a good throwaway name, but like I don't know because I don't know many people with that name.
It's an older name, man.
Yeah, it is.
It's a tough one. I also find myself slowly turning into him, probably because I want to. Like there's a piece of me that wants to be like him, but it's not in necessarily the best ways. It's like some teenage girls were ding dong ditching my house like a year ago.
Oh, really? Oh,
and I have a Ring camera, so I knew what they were doing.
Was this like during Halloween, or is this just like a random time of year?
I think it was random. I think it was cold though, because my first thought was I'd love to turn the sprinklers on, but I can't because I've shut them off for the winter.
What an old person thought. Like,
right? That's something he would have done too, right? He's like, all right, turn the sprinklers on.
Yeah, ring cams kind of ruined that. So they got
Yeah.
caught right away. Like you saw them immediately.
Yeah, I looked at the ring cam. I saw one girl ring and then run into the yard, and they laid down in the grass, right? I don't know why, but they were laying down in the grass, like just waiting there.
Yeah.
And it's not, there's nowhere to hide in my yard. It's just grass.
Yeah, it's flat enough too. It's not like a crazy hill.
No, yeah, there's nowhere to really. I mean, you could hide in behind the trees, but they laid in the grass. So, anyways, yeah, I was like, I'd turn the water, but I couldn't. So, I just opened the door and I said, "Go get him, Dio." And then they just took off running. He didn't. He's an idiot. He's a dumb dog, so he doesn't know anything. But
so there was like a group of girls. I would expect that to be a group of boys for sure. Like,
yeah.
I don't know if I ever knew any girl ever, even like my sister, who ever like ding dong ditched anyone.
I don't know that I did either. But yeah, it was girls. So that was a moment. And then I had one the other day where I said something that I wouldn't normally. I don't think I said it to anybody, but I was really close. He would sometimes go to, like, if he was at a restaurant waiting in line and there was people, some people get in conversations and start talking and then the line moves and they're still standing there.
Oh, yeah.
He'd be the kind of person that wouldn't wait really any time at all. If he noticed they were just sitting there, he'd be like, hey, the damn line's moving. Why don't you get up there? Like, just strangers, right? And he'd just cuss at him and just be like, let's go, move, like, and they get all, upset and call him cranky or whatever. But I did that the other day. I can't remember what it was, but Danny and I were somewhere and I was just like, man, these damn people.
His soul entered your body for a second.
Yeah.
And it was just like, Argh. I get that way at like intersections when I'm waiting for the light and like there's a car right in front of me. And it's usually just like the one car.
Yeah.
And then it goes green and I'm like, 1, 2, 3, move! I'm like, come on, it's been a couple seconds, move!
Yeah.
Why are you moving like I move? And I get that same thought, and I'm just like, sometimes I think we get in our own world too. It's like, that you probably have been the person that could have moved in line and maybe didn't, and you just don't remember it.
100%.
But it's funny that you can call back to that. I feel like I have a different perspective because I didn't really know my grandparents growing up. I remember being in school, and like we've talked about before, like your parents are a different age gap than mine by like 10-ish years, 10 plus years. And I remember in elementary school when people would be like talking about their grandma and grandpa and how much they loved and like when they saw them or maybe they lived here. And I remember times when people's grandparents passed away and it was like a girl in class would just be dying out the hall, like just upset. And I remember just thinking like, I don't get it. Like, I didn't mean it in a mean way, but in my head I was like, to me, a grandparent was like I barely knew them, let alone like having like this full personality trait pull from them. So I feel like my stuff does directly probably correlate with my my dad, like as far as like the classic, like it's kind of an antiquated phrase to be like, what is a man in a sense? I understand that like it's like a very traditional like question to ask. This is why it was interesting to get the different responses that I did. But my definition kind of comes down to, it's not so much like what a man has dominion over or like owns or whatever, but it's the things that like that they build that last because they cared enough to make them last and make them good from the start. And I know I have like my own faults there for sure. Like you always try to go in with good intentions, but sometimes like you catch yourself in a fight with somebody and you're just like, why am I doing this? And you want to like, excuse me, you want to build like, I'm trying to think like good memories, good core like foundations for things, experiences, maybe your little community, whether it's like your friends or your circles of friends, and you want to be a part of like building that up. And I feel like that to me is like an important thing, like a craftsmanship, not just in like for me, like I do like design and graphic design and like storytelling, but how you build those experiences, memories, and communities, which is kind of broad. And I guess that's kind of like goes into my next question of, when you hear the phrase "be a man," like I feel like everyone has their thought of like what comes to mind when you hear it in like an old 2000s movie, like you're watching something from like '04, and they're like "be a man," or there was this There's this really funny like TikTok, Instagram account where it's like a guy, I don't know how old he is. He's probably in his 60s at least. And it would be this, it's like a funny kind of meme account where it'll be like, he's just standing in front of the camera with a green screen. And you can tell he didn't write the lines because he's like an older guy and doesn't probably know what's going on really. And he'll say something like, you walked into the corner and you stubbed your toe really bad. He'll be like, be a man. And it'll just end. That's all it is. It's really stupid stuff. It'll be like, you got, you proposed to your girlfriend at like a NBA game and she declined you. It's like, be a man. It's just like, they're kind of mocking just that kind of mentality, but it's really funny. So I feel like when you hear the phrase like, be a man, I feel like a lot of times it stems from like people meaning to like man up. And by that, I mean like toughen up, or like be straight, or like don't show emotion, or like you get hurt, or like you feel upset about something. It's like ball it up and don't address it, or like ball it up and stuff it down, or maybe address it 20 years from now in therapy. But I feel like that's what my brain goes to, is like just that quick. Be a man means tough. That's all it means. It has to mean tough. Like you have to be tough and you can show anger, and those are like the only things you can do as a man. I don't know if you would agree or disagree with that, or if you have your own approach on when someone says be a man. Like if you get hurt, you're like, be a man about it. Like what goes through your brain?
Yeah, I think I would agree. It does feel like anger is really the only acceptable emotion in that moment. You know, like either like you said, no emotion or anger. Like those are your two options. It is fun. It's interesting that, but it also, I don't know, I guess it does apply broadly, right? Because like you're saying, there's the toughness element to it of, toughen up, buttercup. I don't know. You could say that, I guess, whatever you want to say. You got to throw a little insult in there, get the pride kind of stoked, and then, get fired up. But there's also like the courage element to it, right? Like, I'm scared, I don't want to do this thing. Man up, right? Like, do it, whatever. So there's the concept of like something's hard. I guess maybe that is more like there's the pain associated with a lot of things, and so it's like toughen up, get through it. But it covers a broad range of generally what I think we would maybe previously in society consider more masculine type traits.
And some people might pull that mentality from like just be strong in this moment. It could say that to anyone. It's like if you just remove the man phrasing, you could just be like, XYZ thing happened. You need to toughen up for this. Like, I know that's a hard thing to hear, but sometimes in life you just have to do that. And I think that's true, and I think that's okay. But I think it's like the negative connotations like associated with that. It's like the early 2000s when people just started saying the word gay in a negative sense, and they were just like, that's gay, blah, blah, blah. And it's just like created, it's like snowball. It just snowballed into becoming what it was. And the man thing is like thousands of years in the making. So it feels like it's just stuck there, even though you could generally just say that to someone and be like, you might have to just toughen up in this moment. Like, it sucks, but you might have to. But it feels like there's this weight that men of the past have put on men of the future / present because of that phrase.
That's a good way to put it, actually. I didn't think about I don't know what the word is for the study of language, but I feel like it starts with an E.
Languinese, I don't know.
Nice. I mean, there's linguistics.
I should know this.
But
my dad's wife was in the language world. I feel like I should know this. And if she heard this, she would definitely count the amount of times we said the word like.
Oh, yeah. That's a big one.
It's bad in our generation. I'm not going to lie. A lot of people. I try to actively avoid it and get better at it, but people do it a lot.
Yeah, we do it a lot. I lost my train of thought a little bit.
Sorry.
Oh, just no. Good. The connotation we put on the word man in that scenario is, like you said, we're really saying toughen up, right? Like we're really saying, be stronger or get stronger or whatever. And I wonder if that'll evolve over time, right? Like because we are living in a, like you said, with the word gay, or whatever. It's meaning
all kinds
sometimes.
Of words.
Yeah, they're constantly evolving, and so. But I do wonder a little bit, like what's the underlying principle to that, right? Like, because a lot of what we're saying isn't helpful, right? Like you and I both know that in life you do have to sometimes toughen up, But like,
Right.
what is the actual principle that underlies that? What is the principle of manning up, so that you could convey it in a way that's more emotional? You know what I mean? Like, because that is
Yeah.
an emotional. You're usually, when you're saying it, somebody's going through some sort of emotional reaction, right? They're going through. Someone broke up with them, or didn't accept their proposal. You're jumping off out of an airplane, and you're
They're
scared.
physically hurt. Yeah, like something.
There's always an emotional element in there, and what we're basically usually saying is, I think what we usually hear is toughen up, which, like you said earlier, get rid of the emotion, ignore it, press it down, right? Whatever. But I do think there is an element of toughening up that is emotion. It can be an emotional response, because you do have to get through life, and you do have to survive life. In order to do that, sometimes you need to get a little tougher. But maybe I'm grasping at straws, but I'm just trying to kind of figure out, is there like more of a timeless principle that underlies that, that kind of phrase?
I'm trying to think of like what could circle. Because I agree, and like in life, there's times, and this is part of the issue with why this phrase exists, is that we do just try to like blanket statement it with that, no matter like what the scenario is. That's just the blanket statement, instead of like sometimes you should just feel the emotion. Like I've had people recently who had like someone pass away or like a pet pass away, and I'm just like, my first thought isn't like, you're strong, you'll get through it. Like, because I know that's like not a negative thing to say, but sometimes I'm just like, just go feel. Like, just go let yourself like listen. Like, I had a friend I lost like years ago, and the first thing I did when I found out that she had passed away is I went and like drove around and put on Panic at the Disco, because like that was one of her favorite bands. So that was what I did. I was just like, I'm just gonna like quote unquote be in my feels for this moment and not try to ignore it, because I wasn't ignoring it, but I was just trying to be like, that's crazy. And it didn't feel like it got better after like days. So I was like, I'm just going to try to like release it in a way that I know that I like. Like I love driving and going around. That makes me feel really good to do that and listen to music, windows down. If it's not 110 degrees out, that is. It feels really good. But yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, I just wish.
I don't know. I think you kind of nailed it a little bit, right? Like, maybe that's not the underlying meaning of that. Maybe that's just us avoiding the feeling itself, right? Like, we say that there's no real principle there. Maybe you could reach for stoicism of like not suppressing your emotions, but kind of trying to cope with the acceptance of the situation, right? Like toughen up, meaning I accept what happened.
Right, that's a whole different thing. If you accept it and learn how to process it, doesn't mean you have to be bawling out listening to the Panic at the Disco while you're driving. But it can mean like, yeah, like you're right, like accepting it. I think is like a huge thing, because I think that's what people don't do.
Yeah, no, maybe that's who knows what our forefathers and their forefathers and all the way back to the spawn of time and man meant by manning up. But maybe there is some principle you can grasp out of that is more like learn to accept the reality of the situation and then find a way to proceed with it.
Yeah.
Right? Like you have to move forward eventually. Maybe that means taking time to drive around and listen to a band that I don't think there's anything wrong with getting through the feeling of it, right? Like everyone has to process that in their own way.
Right.
And I do think we used Man Up as like a way to avoid that. I think it's scarier to face like the pain of a situation than
Or
it
how you'll
is
be
to-
perceived. Like if you react
Yeah.
a certain way, you're like, oh, this person's going to think I'm weak. They can't think I'm weak. I'm supposed to be the strong one. And then all of a sudden you spiral. You're like, nope, let's skip all that.
Yep, exactly that, right? Like that's harder to do. It's harder to actually grapple with the emotions than to just say like toughen up and just press it down and like I'm gonna beat the hell out of this problem.
It's
'Cause that always works.
It's kind of funny because it kind of goes to the same thing that I noticed in the relationships I've had, my relationship with my wife, or just like I would say the majority of like women male relationships between me and somebody else, of they have an issue. And sometimes people just want you to listen. And like my immediate thought, much like I think maybe you can agree with this or not, of other people that I know, is to solve it. And it's not a bad intention. Like if you're like, oh, my car is having this issue, it's making this weird sound. You're like, well, you could take it in, let's do this, whatever. And they're just like, no, I'm just like venting about it because on top of that, so-and-so at work did this thing that pissed me off and this happened. And they're just wanting to talk about it. And your immediate thought is like, how do I fix that problem so it's off your shoulders, off your plate? So there's a good intention behind it. But the real problem is that you're not actually listening to what the person says. You're just trying to solve the problem, not solve their... I don't want to say solve their feelings. That doesn't make sense. But
help them work through it, right? Like,
yeah. Like you just
venting.
Yeah, like people just they need that feeling, that moment. So that kind of brings me to a question that I had that's kind of in that realm of like today specifically. We can't compare it as much when we were little because when we were little we were kids, so we had we were going through different phases of our life. We weren't thinking about being a man at age 10. Like you weren't like it wasn't in your everyday thought of like how you should act. But like today, what is something that scares you the most about being a man today? And if you need a second to think, like my first thought is, I guess it's kind of like a twofer, but it's primarily looking back and being way worse than I thought I could have been. In the scenarios where it's like someone expected me to stand up, like we've been in, like me and my wife have been in like a car accident before, and I feel like I can be lazy and bad about day-to-day stuff sometimes and forgetful with my ADHD, and it can be bad, but like I feel like in certain moments like that, sometimes some people they switch and they panic, and I feel like I get relatively calm, like way more than I think I would be, where it's like we got hit, like this guy was going like 70, 75 at an intersection. We got hit and it spun her new RAV4 around, and I immediately, like the whole thing like came out at us, and I put my arm across her without even thinking about it, and I stopped, and the little person was like, the OnStar thing was on, and I was like, Sarah, you good? Blah, blah. Like I was just like dialed in, and I don't know how or why, but it did, and I don't know why that is, but it worked for me, and I feel like I don't want to look back at those types of moments and think that I handled it a bad way. Now, I'm not saying you have to be perfect, but I don't want to be like the guy who gets out of the car and is like, am I okay? And you're not thinking about anybody else but yourself. Like I don't know if you watch Seinfeld or not, if you ever really watched through that show. If you haven't, I suggest you do. It's very, very, it's much funnier the older you get. But there's a whole episode where George, there's like a fire, and then he like runs to get out, and he like surpasses like these old women and these kids. It's like a kid's birthday party, and they go out there and they're like, you pushed everyone out of the way, and he's like, I was checking, like he didn't have like a really good answer, and it was so obvious. Like I don't want to be that person. That scares me. And also I don't want to be viewed as someone who ever puts down women or puts women in this like box. Like I don't want to be that person. I know I've passively been that person, like on accident, just like primitively, or thinking things based off of like my biased upbringing or what it means to be a man when growing up. And I feel like I look back and I'm like, I don't want to look back anymore and be like, in that scenario, why didn't I say something, or why didn't I stand up for that group? I don't want to look back at myself and think, could have done it differently. And maybe that comes from that time of doing YouTube videos for so long, where I could look back and see some cringe stuff. So now I think about, if I had been recording, how cringy would that be a couple years ago? Yeah. So I feel like that's something that scares me about being a man today. It's not standing up for those who might need help. Yeah.
I like those. Those are good answers. Your last one scares me a little bit, because now I'm worried that in 2 years you're going to look back at these podcasts and be like, oh, geez. Now, like it's like a good reason not to be doing this, but you gotta move forward in life. So
yeah,
it's like you said. It's are you building things worth building as a man? So
yeah,
sometimes that means you're gonna put a shower in a room where you can't run the plumbing, and then you got to rip the whole shower out. It's like, oh, that should have checked the plumbing first.
I couldn't tell if you were actually saying something that's what you guys were trying to do, or that was just something you thought of on the fly. Okay, I was like, oh no.
No, I haven't made that mistake yet.
Oh, that'd be.
I'm sure I will one day, but stuff like that.
Something to aspire to. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I had two that came to mind. There's like a more primal one, which is maybe antiquated, but still there's just something inside me, especially having kids. Maybe it's a little different, but I'm sure you feel it too. And it doesn't help when you're watching like a cop show. Like my wife and I are watching The Rookie, so I'm
I love The Rookie. Nathan Fillion's fantastic.
Yeah, it's great. And it's actually pretty mild as far as like cop shows go. But
yeah, it's not too crazy.
There's like there's the serial killers, and there's, guys doing bad stuff, mostly guys, some women, but mostly men.
It's like 95% of men
stuff.
commit crimes. It's really bad ratio if you look at the stats.
It's not great. Yeah, I mean, most atrocities in the world have been committed by men. But, it's that kind of stuff, knowing that kind of stuff, seeing it, that you get on edge a little bit, and like you're kind of worried, like if somebody actually did something, unlikely. But if they did, would I be able to do anything about it? Like, do I have the strength, literally the physical strength to outmatch somebody, the skill? I haven't taken any jujitsu classes. I'm not Joe Rogan smashing people's faces.
You're not Dwight. You're not.
I'm not Dwight. Yeah. So would I actually be able to fight back? Actually, literally protect my family? Sometimes that thought sticks in my brain a little bit. So there's that, and then there's kind of adjacent to what you were saying, but like, am I good enough as a person? Like just as a general person. And I don't know, maybe that's how this kind of concept of being a man is changing for our generation, or not, I don't know. But I think previous generations may have had sort of a litmus test again, just to that toughness factor, right? Like if you're tough, then you're doing it right.
It was like, be tough, make money, have little emotion. It was like, control the situation. Yeah.
Yeah. It's those things. And it's, they fit into those kind of classic provider, protector, that kind of, type role, hunter versus gatherer, type thing. But that's something I also kind of want. I didn't have a question to this, but it was something I wanted to bring up in this discussion, was that trend is changing quite a bit, right? And I think that's why that the question has been on my mind, is listening to podcasts and being the spouse of somebody who also works nearly full time. Has our whole marriage, and not in an easy, it's not like she's doing, heaven forbid I say something that's not politically correct, but it's not like it's dental hygienist, or, which is totally fine if that's what, or nurse, or typical kind of female role. She works in a manufacturing plant, right? Like,
right. It's not like what you would think. I know what you mean from like a general societal standpoint. Anyone can do anything, but it's not like what the cliche roles people put people in.
Right.
Like, it's different. Yeah.
Yeah. So she's doing manual labor and all kinds of stuff. So it just gets on my, we can't fall back on that type of stuff this day and age really anymore, right? As like a man, like I provide, I bring home the bacon, so to speak, because I don't do that, and I haven't our entire marriage. We do it together. Right, we share that responsibility. So it just kind of gets you thinking about, like, not necessarily how am I as a man per se, but like, how am I as a person? Am I doing good enough for my family? And what does that really look like? Right, like I think that's the topic on my brain, is like, am I fulfilling the functions of a man? Like, what would that look like, and how can I do that this day and age that's different in the past? One, because society's changed, but two, because I want it to be different, right? Like, I think that's the trend we're on anyways, is we generally as a society, I think, want to get away from that macho, kind of attitude about things, and more into the things that you and I were talking about, feeling emotions and, going through those processes. How can I be a good example to my kids of that, and that it's okay to do that as a male? I've got 2 sons. So, I think that's the fear, right? Is just, am I, as Marcus Aurelius would say, is the sole responsibility of any human is to just be a good person, right? Like, his entire philosophy was like, what is your purpose as a human? It's to be a good person, be virtuous, be kind, be generous, those types of things. So, the fear is I'm not doing those things very well. But
Did you that's a curious question because of the kid perspective. Did you feel different because obviously your first was your daughter and then your second was your first son. Did you feel differently when you learned because you guys learned before they were born, right? Like what their sex was going to be? You knew that before. Okay.
Yeah.
So when you obviously had your daughter, you had like a certain thought, and then when you were like, "Oh, we're going to have a boy," were you like, "Oh, this is a whole different feeling"? Yeah, did it not hit you until maybe he was here that you had to kind of approach it differently because of the way that you personally think they should be, society thinks they should be, or how society thinks they shouldn't be? Did you feel those differences or not really?
That's a good question. I think most normal people would feel that differently. I'm not a normal person, so
That's right, me either. I sometimes think I'm a sociopath. I don't have the feeling as strong as I think I should.
Yeah.
And then I'll cry at Toy Story 3 and I'm just I don't know where my emotions are. Like, well, who am I?
That's right. Anytime you think you're a sociopath, go watch Toy Story 3. If you cry, you're good. You're fine. No, yeah, I think I was more focused on the practical. Like, again, we're going off the rails on things we don't need to talk about, but it's like when I'm changing the diaper, it's like, oh, this is a different.
It's literally a different process. Yeah.
So I think I was more focused on like what's going to be different from an experience standpoint. Like I've heard boys when they're little sleep better, and just I'm focusing on those kinds of things, right? Versus like, how am I going to raise this kid? What's going to be different?
Right.
I will say, as time's gone on, I don't honestly think I've done it consciously, but I do treat them differently. And it's just your typical everyday stuff, right? Like,
do you throw like Will around more than you would throw Emma around? I feel like that's a really common one I've heard people talk about.
Yeah, I throw him not just for fun either. I'll throw him when I'm mad at him. And I never did that with her. It's hard to tell too because she was the first, and so it was like I've got all
there's also a little different
and patience, and then she absorbed all the patience, so I have none left. And so he just gets Jekyll, It's just that's how it goes for him. And then the littlest one, it's like at that point you don't even care. So that's why the middle child always has it the hardest.
They get like the bad residuals from the first one, but then they don't get the super ease off the foot, the pedal from the third one. Yeah.
Just because you're so tired by the third, you're like, I don't even. Sure, dude. Whatever.
They'll be fine. They'll figure it out. Yeah.
So, but yeah, I think there's some dynamics of age there and the order that they're born in. But I for sure will toss the boys around and get after them much harder than I do for Emma.
I know the reason I asked that is because stuff that I've learned, like probably since I was in my like early 20s, like I didn't think about this type of stuff when I was a teenager really, but when I was like seriously dating people in my like 20s and I met my wife and whatever, we had these moments where like we would go for a walk and she would talk about how it feels very different for her to walk at night than it would feel for me to walk at night. Yeah. And that doesn't help that I'm also like a 6'5" giant. So like I'm also like a 6'5" white male where it's like I don't feel that. Like I know I'm tall. I don't feel it. Like I still get freaked out at night because there's sketchy people everywhere in the world. Yeah. So I still get freaked out, but it's a different level than they get freaked out. So ever since like we've had discussions like that, I try to think if I'm walking anywhere at night where it's like, even if it's like a group or for some reason, if I'm doing something, even in the day, like I empty the trash and there's someone like near me, then they're going to go empty their trash. I try to make a sound to be like, hey, I'm here. I don't want you to freak out when you turn around 2 seconds later because I'm like right there. So I'm like, I'll like scuff my foot or I'll do whatever. Yeah. So like I try to make someone aware of me, especially me again, because I feel like, I don't know if I come off scary, but I don't feel like I come off like super playful. My wife and I joke about me being Lenny from Of Mice and Men, where I'm like the big friendly giant guy who accidentally kills something that's too small. And I'm like, okay, I don't know if I guess there could be worse things to be compared to.
That's true. Lenny's not so bad, man. He makes that book.
So you might get more into it as years go on, and your brain is still, because they're so young, you're just like, I gotta keep it alive. Like that's what your brain is initially thinking, like, how do I keep this alive and make sure it's healthy and fine? But as the years progress, I'm sure you'll probably start to think about the differences. I mean, you did say you felt like you noticed a couple differences. Do you feel like Danny treats them differently? Have you noticed where she feels like based on that, or do you think she's more equal? I wonder if that's like a male perspective to treat them differently.
That is an interesting question. We're gonna do a bit right now, though. Okay. Pause for a sec. I have your question in my head. It's time for a bit. The bit is I forgot to plug in my computer again, so I gotta go for a second.
I thought you were gonna have me to pretend to be Danny or something. I was like...
All right. Every episode, that's gonna happen. Okay. Yeah, we gotta come up with a better bit.
I mean, the times that I've seen her around them, I don't feel like I've seen her, but I don't see her enough. So obviously, I wouldn't know. But I wonder if you've ever noticed a difference.
I would say no. I don't. I think she does it less. She may feel differently, and she may feel differently about me. She may say,
right.
And actually, that's not true. She's told me I'm easier on her.
You're like, never mind.
Yeah.
You should ask her. You should ask her after this. Just be like, hey, do you feel like you treat them differently ever? And it doesn't have to be something crazy. It could be something very small. Just if you ever, because I feel like women aren't as like binary with that. They aren't as black and white. Like they don't see it that way. They're just like, this is my kid. Not like this is my girl or this is my boy or I don't know.
Yeah. I think I agree. I think she tends to treat them relatively, I wouldn't say equal, but not in the sense of like she's giving fair treatment to the daughter versus the son, just that they're all individual kids, and so she treats them differently based on who they are. Whereas I'm probably more of like, like we said, like with my daughter, it's just very, okay. You're welcome to do. Yeah, sure. You asked nicely. That's fine. And then my son asked me something. I'm like, go sit. I don't want to see you for the rest of the day. Go sit down. So it's not that harsh, but yeah, I think she does a better job of kind of tempering that. Yeah, and I don't think it's gender based or anything like that. It's, if anything, it's more just who they are as individuals. Like she'll probably get into it more with our daughter than with our two sons.
And she's also the oldest.
She's the oldest, so she's going through phases of understanding independence and talking back and just all those things. And it's hard for any parent, whether like even me as the softie that I am, I hear her talk that way to my wife and I snap in real quick, and it's
I've seen those videos on like TikTok where someone will be like, they'll be sitting, it's like a prank, and the mom will be in on it, and the kid will be like, the mom will be like, hey, go like make your bed, and the kid will be like, shut up, mom, and the dad's like, what? And he gets up.
Yeah, that's like that protective, I guess there's that protective instinct too as a man, right? Like, the kids don't talk that way to mom.
Right.
That's not gonna happen. So yeah, there's a little bit of that, but I don't know. It's an interesting dynamic.
Couple things I wanted to kind of break out to before I get to what other people had kind of said when I asked them the question. Just two things I wanted to throw out. Like for my final kind of defining characteristic of like the importance and like how you define, like, what's what I'm trying to say? How am I trying to say it? Like, what are the important factors when it comes to defining who you are, even as a person, but just in general? I feel like a man should try to learn from the mistakes of his father. Maybe you can relate with that. I feel like that's a big thing for me is, like I said earlier, like I didn't have the grandfather dynamic. So my dad's dynamic was, he's much more like quiet in a lot of ways. Like he doesn't really talk too much past like sports, comedy / like shows we'll watch and like holiday stuff and little things here and there, but there's not like in-depth talking about topics. And I'm sure that probably stems from stuff with his family and my dad in particular. I don't think I found this out until I was probably a teenager that like I knew that like his dad had passed away relatively younger, like 40s, 50s. And he was the oldest, so he kind of helped raise them in a sense. And he probably had his own issues at the time, so it was probably a lot to go through. And then him and my mom moved out from Michigan out to here, and they kind of reset and kind of did their own thing. But I am grateful for how he and my mom like got here and got us to this point, because I'm sure we'd be very different if we grew up in Michigan around certain people that we may or may not like or people we don't know. And I feel like that's like a pro that I can maybe learn from. And he definitely taught me to kind of have the strong work mentality of like, if you're gonna do something, do it right. Even though I know, like, I don't always do that, but I try to remember that. It is probably one of the few things I did pick up from him. But I feel like I want to learn from all the mistakes that he has made, whether that's like anger as the only emotion, or just being so closed off, or treating external people way better than he treats our immediate family. And I've already seen myself even do this sometimes. Like, me and Sarah will kind of get in an argument, and I'm just like later I'll think about it. I'm like, why did we, like, that was so dumb, that, like, whatever it was. And then I'm like at work being like, oh yeah, ha, 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 to people. And I'm just like, what am I doing? Like, why am I being 10 times nicer to this person that knows me at a surface level than I am to the person I'm supposed to care about the most? And I just don't, you just take for granted when you get into these situations with people, these relationships or these like friendships. It's just so easy to think they're always going to be there. Even if I'm upset now, I can turn around and be fine tomorrow. And it's like, they deserve more respect than that. So I feel like I want to learn from that. And I know there's, what's that line in The Breakfast Club? I forget her name. The goth girl says it. She talks about like how like we all end up like our parents, and they're like, I'm not going to do that. And she's like, it's unavoidable or whatever. And I'm like, to a point, I mean, I totally agree. Cause like we both probably have things that we do like our dads and we don't realize it, for better or for worse. But we don't have to be identical to them. I think we're already not. I think we already have differences from who they were. And I think at the minimum, we should at least be doing that, like pushing that needle to be a little bit better. And my second main thing is we have to reset the negative things that men of the past have set in motion. Like, stop putting, like I said, stop putting down women, stop putting down other men, and be vulnerable and stop replacing every emotion with anger. Because I think it's funny the amount of times that I will see people on the internet getting upset, or I'll listen to a podcast where someone interviews like an incel. I don't know if you know what an incel is by like the term. Yeah. And people will like interview and talk to people like this, and they're just like, oh, women this, women that, whatever. And I'm like, well, look inward for a moment. I remember being a teenager, and like you would try to date and talk to girls, and it didn't work out. And I didn't just like start hating everybody. Yeah. And I think the problem is like with the internet now too, there can be like the leader of the incels who's like poisoning all the other people. And that's where you get, what is his name? The Andrew Tate guy. You get like those people who are kind of like trickling down, like, you gotta be the best man of men that men can be, and man, and blah, blah, blah. And they just belittle everyone, even other men. Like, that's like their whole thing. And I'm like, so they all found this community of negativity that just festers and gets worse. And I'm like, one of these people that got interviewed on this podcast called Other People's Lives, he was like 23 talking about being an incel. I'm like, dude, you're 23. What are we doing? Why are you acting like the world's over? I know when you're younger. I remember when that Olivia Rodrigo song came out, the driver's license song, and it's like really emotional. And you're like, this is a 16-year-old wrote this. And I'm like, you remember what it's like to be like under 18? Everything is everything. And it's like, so there needs to be a better outlet, and I feel like sometimes people get the spotlight that shouldn't have it, and they're just like festering these communities of really angry young men that are the red pillars or whatever they're called from the Matrix. Yeah. So those are kind of like my main points I definitely wanted to like express to round that out, but yeah.
No, I like that. A couple of thoughts I had that actually I think tie well together is that, maybe I'll work backwards. Maybe that's the way to do this. But you're talking about those individuals, incel or not, just whatever it is that belong to this group of men who feel like, and I think
like jaded.
Yeah, you can't totally blame them. I mean, what's the community that they're a part of that, you know, may have existed in the 50s or 60s with? It could be military. It could be anything. Communities are just, they're not as existent anymore, right? Like, we've pulled away from.
Not in this. They're like very different now. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they're online. They're in other places, right? Like, there's
such niche communities now too for things.
Yeah, hyper niche. Right? You're right. They're very specific. So you can't totally blame them. They're looking for belonging somewhere, and that's a place to go to belong. But I wonder. I mean, all those males that are in that position have a father somewhere, whether that father was a part of their lives, maybe, and before anybody says, well, maybe they were raised by two moms, that's acceptable, but they did have there had to be a father somewhere.
There's
He just
probably
left,
somebody in
you
a
know,
male, like,
yeah,
you
or
would
some
think
male
even
capacity.
sibling, father, some other
Yeah.
extended family, even friends, like even a friend that could be someone that's valuable to you.
Yeah, there's a figure somewhere that's a man, and that person, for whatever reason, just didn't. This is going back to kind of what you were saying with your own father, didn't really teach them, and this is true of my father. And again, no slam on them. It's just, I think we're learning.
This is what it
this.
is. Yeah.
And I'm not doing a good job of this myself, but there's this level of superficiality that I think exists between son and father, right? Like you said, it's your conversations are focused on sports or TV, or even if you do talk about your job, it's just kind of like, yeah, this is what I'm doing.
How's the car running? How's the job?
Yeah.
Like, yeah. It's not like, oh, your boss sucks. Tell me about it. What do they do? Like, you don't even talk about that. Yeah.
And even if you do, it's just kind of like, it's, okay, yeah, they suck. Have you looked at, and then they may even go into the
they're trying to fix
solving,
it.
right?
They're trying to fix it.
Solve the problem. And again, we all do that. It's totally normal and fine. But I wonder if there's a way to kind of almost kill two birds with one stone a little, right? Like you were saying, kind of that point of like, how do we, to your second point, how do we help the next generation not fall into the same trap? And I wonder if some of that is on, and again, it doesn't mean that you have to be a father to do it. You can just be a prominent male figure in anybody's life and just try and go a little deeper with people, right? Like, let's get past the superficial. How do
Just
you feel
ask a
about
question or two.
Yeah.
Like, even
And
that just opens the door.
focus on the feeling aspect of it. Like, how do you feel about that? Why is that challenging? What's hard about that, right? Like, be curious about the situation, not necessarily finding the solution to it or just hitting the surface, but dig deeper, ask the questions, get to know them on a deeper level, and how they're feeling about it. And I think that will help teach the next generation that it's okay to have emotion, process it, and work through it, and maybe we can get away from some of the more divisive male characteristics that seem to be making another prominent rise in the world. A very loud, I think it's a minority, but a very loud minority, over there, and a shift away from the quiet, older majority of toughen up.
Yeah.
Get past it.
I feel like a lot of the women in my life, I feel like I can ask them questions and it's not weird. Like, it doesn't even matter. Like, we have a friend who's in the track of psychiatry, psychology, like that type of path in medical and being a doctor. And we have I have other friends in like all different kinds of fields, and I feel like I can almost always ask them questions. Same with like my mom and my sister. I think to a point I can ask them questions because I want to get their perspectives. But I feel like a lot of guy friends that I have, I feel like I could probably ask you certain questions because you like to think introspectively about things, and you like to like ideate and sit with something, and you appreciate what that is. But I feel like there's some people who I get an answer to, or I get a question to, and sometimes I get a joke and then maybe a real answer, or sometimes I just get a joke, or sometimes I don't really get a response at all, or not like a real one, like a throwaway, like they don't really care about it, don't want to talk about it. But I would think, aside from like us having conversations like that, like if you remember my buddy Antoine, who's in my groomsmen party, I feel like I can ask him a random question whenever, and it's just like we'll have a dialogue about it, and I think it's great. Like, I was swimming one day, and I think I was listening. I don't know if I was listening to music or I was just thinking. And I remember I moved over to like the hot tub after. I was like sitting there, and I was like, I'm gonna ask Antoine this question. And it was the question. This is a whole question for another time, can of worms. But I asked him like, what is one thing that makes you fully believe in like his faith, the faith that he believes in? And I was like, what is one big thing that makes you question it? Because I was curious. I was like, what is your heavy-ended spectrum of like, I'm all in, and like, ooh, this is really tricky for me. And I feel like I can ask him that, and I don't worry about what he's going to respond with. And I feel like if I ask that to certain people, they'd be like, what the heck? What? Like, what is this question? And I appreciate that dynamic because we have an understanding that we're not being offensive to each other, and I'm not trying to challenge anything that he feels or believes. I'm just asking a question because my curiosity has been piqued, or I want to understand him better. I feel like I can do that with more women in my life than I could do it with like the more average of the men in my life. And again, it just goes back to just asking a question. So I want to use that to segue in to not even on purpose, but segue into me just like an hour before recording the podcast, texting a handful of friends, and one is my brother, and asked, what is being a man to you? And that's it. Like no other context, just curious to see what they would say. So let me go through it. I'll read the full, what's that?
Your brother, the Cookie Monster?
Yeah, the cookie monster.
I'm not the Cookie Monster. He's the Cookie Monster.
Yeah, he is the Cookie Monster.
I just make the cookies to feed the Cookie Monster.
Oh, that's the dynamic. Okay. You learn something new every day. The
more you know. We should get that NBC in the post edit. I want to hear this. I want to hear the more you know, and I want to hear the jingle right at that precise moment that I said that.
All right, we'll try. Well, people will know if they're listening if that happened or not.
They'll know.
So the first person, I'm not gonna like burn who said what, because like people wouldn't even necessarily know who everyone is I'm talking about. But one person said, being a man in 2025 feels slightly antiquated to me. But if I had to sum it up in the most modern sense, I could. Being confident in satisfying your own needs while also ensuring that the needs of those closest to you are met. I feel like it's a bad answer.
Yeah,
I like the confidence aspect. I think that's important.
Yeah. Are these all men that you asked, or are there some females?
No, so these are all guys. I did ask my wife, and she looked at me, and Sarah was just like, I don't know how to answer that. And I was like, well, I'm not asking you as if you're a man. I want to see what you think you would define it as. And she was like, I don't know. And I was like, to be fair, I did ask you 45 minutes before the podcast. So next time I'll think more in advance.
Okay. All right.
But another one said, they hit me with a joke. I'm trying to think what the joke was. Hold on. Let me look at the message really quick. Oh yeah, I said, what does it mean to be a man to you? And he just hit back with giant muscles, and I heard it like giant muscles is what I heard in my head. And then he goes, "JK, no, I don't know. Like being a man is like being dependable in my mind. It's not about being a provider or never cry type of thing. Dependable and just, like feeling just about it." And I was like, I like that. I think dependable is a really good one. I feel like that can apply to anyone, but I feel like that's a big thing in the manosphere. Is truly being dependable, and not like the negative side where it's like, I'm dependable, people should love me like I say I am. It's like, no, you should prove that you are by your actions, not just your words. One said, I don't know, I mostly just got sarcastic answers, LOL. In general, just supporting your family / loved ones, in parentheses, all around, not just like financially, and not unnecessarily burdening them for your own convenience. And that last part I really liked. I thought that was really strong. Not unnecessarily burdening them for your own convenience, which can apply to small things or obviously very large things. I thought that was a good one. Lastly, one person said, I don't know how to answer that. There's a science-based answer. There are culture-based answers, and so I don't know how to answer it. I will say, after they said they don't know how to answer it, I will say I think my responsibility as a man, if any, is virtually nothing. I'm more concerned about the responsibility as a human being, which is virtually everything. Which is like a very, I think, philosophical take, and I'm trying to think. Like, my initial response when I read it was like the kind of devil's advocate-y, like in the sense that you're giving an answer by not giving an answer, but like at the end you are giving an answer of saying like, almost like, is it more important that we're just human beings, whether we classify as man, woman, or anything in between? Which I appreciate. I think there's this weird line though. It kind of goes to like race when you think about like people saying like they're like, I don't see color, and it's like, well, you should recognize someone as a certain race and respect them for that instead of being like, I don't see color. And it's like, well, people are different races, so like saying that, it sounds kind of fun on the surface, but at the core and the root, it doesn't really help. So I feel like saying that is like kind of broad, where I'm more concerned about my responsibilities as a human being. It is like a nice and very genuine thing to say. I don't know, but they did preface it with they didn't feel comfortable, like they didn't know how to really answer it. So I appreciate the go on that one and the thought that went into it.
Yeah, I agree. And I think I said the same thing earlier, right? Like, it kind of goes back to less of like, I think I said it when we were talking about the fears of being a man, and it was really more of just like the fear of being a human. Am I being a good person? Am I doing my best as a human being? So I can certainly understand that. I like the other answers too, that things you'd expect: dependability, confidence, just.
Right.
There was one in there that I think it was just before the one that you had mentioned with
the burden inconvenience one.
Yeah, I can't remember what. Something in there made me think about,
in general, supporting your family, loved ones, all around, not just financially,
yes,
and not unnecessarily burdening them for your own convenience.
Yeah, it was that part about supporting them not just financially. That it almost sounds like, and I don't know that person, and I hope they had a great family and all that stuff, but I'm not trying to make an assumption about this person specifically. It's just how, when I hear that, it almost sounds like, I'm going to say cry for help. It's not. It's not a cry for help.
But maybe they didn't get the support that they would have wanted.
Yes, and whatever. I don't know what that is, but to me, because our conversation is focused on emotion, that's what my mind goes to, right? Is like not just like my dad supported me financially, which I appreciate, but he didn't support me emotionally, and I really
or in any other way.
Yeah, or any other way. But our conversation's focused on the emotion side, so that's where my brain went. But I don't know. That's definitely where our conversation is. I think if we're here at the end of probably our recording, if we were going to sum up, I'd say we really focused heavily on kind of that don't deny the emotion aspect of being a man. Let's move to something different as we look forward to the future of what it means to be a man, and that being, let's feel our feelings. Let's talk about them with our friends and with our sons and with other men who are around us in our communities, as little as they may be or as changed as they may be, and support each other through that, and not try and solve the problem, but just be curious about how they're feeling, how they're getting through it, what's happening to them. So
I think it's like important to hold boys/men accountable more than they probably have been, but also on the other side, I think it's important to be like the best man that you can be. Again, I'm going to go back to having to support women, just because I feel like they've been second class for so long in a lot of ways, that I feel like it's important to also lift them up in a society that doesn't want to do that on average. So I feel like that is something that's important. And that goes back to like you like defending your wife if somebody tells them to shut up. Like it's like even that's like the simplest thing, but even like bigger than that. I feel like that stuff's important, and I feel like we can't let that type of stuff slip. Last question. We can keep this like short and sweet answers. What is something you feel you've unlearned about masculinity that you're proud to have outgrown? Mine, well, I'll give you a second to think. Mine is that even though I get angry, or when I get angry, it's like learning to apologize. I feel like over the last 5 years particularly, I've gotten better. I might be like an over apologizer in some ways, where it's like even if I do something like oops sorry, like I just easily burn a sorry. And some people like they gatekeep their sorries like to no end. So I'm definitely like loose lips when it comes to saying sorry, but I feel like I'm structuring my apology and actually trying to own up to the mistake, even if it's at work and I'm like, something happens, I'm not like, who could have done that? I don't know. Like, I'm like, oh, you know what? That's my bad. I did it this way. Should have done that way. Here's my plan for going forward. I feel like a lot of role models that I had growing up didn't really do that. It was like my way or the highway, or I can't be wrong. Like, there's no way, even though it's like, you're probably wrong. And they're like, no. And I'm like, okay, I'm trying not to do that. I feel like I've gotten better at that. That's the thing I think I would mostly say I've outgrown. Still growing it, but outgrowing it. But I feel like that's the biggest one.
Yeah, I like that. Maybe it's too adjacent, but the one that came to my mind is I I think this isn't a good answer because I don't think I've learned it yet, but I think I can recognize it and I'd like to unlearn it. Is that it's okay to not know the answer. It's okay to. I think there's a part of me that logically understands that, like most of us probably do, but there's some other piece of me that's like unwilling to let it go, right? Like just to be totally at peace with not knowing. There's something that like stirs in me that's like, no, that's not an acceptable response.
I feel that. Yeah.
You have to know, right? Like you got to know it.
I feel like you got to have the answer. You're like, I have to.
Exactly. Like
Hate
when
that
someone comes to
feeling.
me with a problem, not that they're venting, they have a problem and I got to solve it. So I better know how to fix it, right? Like it's that. But it's okay not to know, right? Like I think, again, like I said, I don't think I have unlearned that, but I'd like to. I'd like to unlearn
That's fair.
that concept of like, it's okay to not know and it's okay to just be present. And sometimes, probably more often than not, that's just what people need. So,
I like it.
all right. Well,
I'm with it. I like it.
let's cap it off. Before we do, you busted out a Ben Rector quote, lyric last time. I've got one here that I thought was fitting.
I was jamming to that "What It Means to Be a Man" song all day today with is it Thomas Rhett? I forget.
Yeah, Thomas Rhett. Yep. So you're already on top of it. I liked the. You could probably recite it from memory at this point. But just the part in there where he says, the whole song's about he's asking the question what it means to be a man. But I think the part that always sticks out to me is he says, "Is it making peace with who you are or where you stand?" Always kind of hits a little bit home for me, right? He's talking about all these. Is it money? Is it power? Is it fame? Right? Like, what are all the? What is it to be a man? And his kind of. It sounds like the concept he's building up is like or is it really just about making peace with who you are and where you stand? It's acceptance. Yeah.
It's that callback to what I loved when you said that earlier when we circled in on the acceptance part. I was like, that's perfect, and that's like a perfect callback to that.
Yeah. So
I love it.
I'll leave that with you. If you haven't heard the song, go jam to it. It's a great song.
It's a good one.
What Makes a Man? That's what it's called. What Makes a Man by Ben Rector. So, all right. Well, let's cap it off. You'll add some bloopers in, some jingles for The More You Know. You're gonna work your magic, and this is gonna be awesome. People are gonna love it. We'll do that. We need a good sign off. We'll have to think of that.
I know what could be a good sign off.
Could just be as simple as see ya. I like it.
The Secret Five.
The Secret Five.
Just so and then we can just jump into it whenever. How's things? Were you guys trying to put the kids down?
Trying to, yeah. That's a good way to say it. Trying to. Yeah. Well, we got James he's got some ear stuff going on.
Oh.
So we've got to take him in for an appointment on Friday. He's going to get tubes put into his ears.
Is it like an ear infection related thing?
Yeah, he gets like a ton of ear infections, and so he's just doesn't drain right, and so they got to put tubes in. I guess it's relatively common, but they got to put him under for it, and
fun.
Not super fun, but
yeah, not fun at all. And if you're wondering why my voice sounds weird, I'm still getting over being sick.
Oh, you're good.
I don't know if I'm too loud or not. I think I'm at a good level.
No, you sound fine. I feel like I can't hear right with my.
Maybe turn around. Maybe you're hearing left. If you turn around, you'll hear right.
There's like a noise cancel.
Oh, okay.
But
it's supposed to
not
make
working.
It more clear. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I sound funny, but it's all right. I always sound funny.
I know. I feel that. If That's the story of my life. If I just happen to mute or cough a lot, just bear with me. My voice is mostly back today, but man, you should have heard it. I should have sent you voice memos a couple days ago. It was like I hopped on like a meeting before I took a couple days off. I was like, I got a cat, you help me. I was like, it was really bad.
It was the opposite of what I would have expected. I thought you were gonna say you were like Sam Elliott or something, just coming
I
in
wish.
gruff cowboy, dude.
I wish.
That would have been nice. Man. Sometimes the fates don't align. Sometimes you do get that when you're sick. You know, you get the real deep voice.
Yeah.
But sometimes the gods look a different way at you.
Yeah. It's funny too because like yesterday and today, I mean I wasn't working yesterday, but today is the worst kind of lose my voice day because it's like I will have most of my voice back and I'll be talking and I'll be like, yeah, well the thing with that project is I just and I'll just go all one word.
And they're like,
they can't see my face all the time, so my voice just goes because people don't always video chat.
They're like, how old are you? 13?
Yeah. They just hit through puberty again.